Work session to order, 5:30. We'll stand, we'll have a pledge. Pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're all here. We're gonna, is there anything on the agenda you're gonna pull off there and look at individually, or just wanna look at it as a whole?
I'd like to talk about this fiber internet proposal.
Okay.
Number 10 of Massey Electric Company quote.
Okay, Massey Electric Company quote, attachment 10.
We were asked, just because of all the streaming that goes on with sports, baseball and softball, which we have middle school and high school baseball and softball that are on the hill, off the top of the hill, would like to be able to stream sports. We don't have internet access up there. That is the only place on our campus that does not have internet access. So, you know, we provided the information for you all if that's something the board would choose to do. We also, our Avigilon cameras are web-based, so we don't have cameras up there either in our softball and baseball field, so that would allow us to be able to access the Avigilon cameras as well for security purposes. But again, it's the pleasure of the board, whatever you all would like to do. But it was brought to our attention a few years ago for streaming purposes. And then Coach Perkins had asked again if there would be a way to be able to get internet up there.
So they don't have any kind of internet, do they have a hotspot or anything along those lines?
They do not have a hotspot. Rob, do you want to
Address
address that a little, probably be a little more technical than I can?
One of the things that we are required to comply with when providing internet service is the Child Internet Protection Act, which is commonly referred to as SIPA. If we were to put a hotspot or anything outside of school-based connectivity like we host between here and CTE and the middle school, it would not fall under the same firewall and provisions that we have in place to comply with those standards. So it also would not tie any kind of internet connectivity directly to us. A hotspot would be a third-party vendor, something along the lines of Verizon or Skyline or something like that.
Okay.
So we typically have never entertained the idea of a hotspot. It's usually just a hardwired or a local connection like that. So that way it falls within the same parameters as the service we provide at all the other buildings.
Okay. And as far as the security cameras, as far as a web-based security system, have we ever looked at something like a hardwired CCTV system up there or something along those lines if we're worried about security or anything?
It was my understanding that they had some cameras up there with a local DVR or an NVR, but I'm not really familiar because that was installed long before we were ever involved in the security camera process.
They're not very reliable. You know, we've had some damage up there and they're just not it's not a very reliable system like the other.
I just struggle with this one because this seems more like a want than a need.
And that's why we thought we would bring it to you all.
Especially with what we're trying to do with the budget anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty hefty chunk of change just to run fiber up there, to be honest.
Any other comments? Anything else on there you want to look at?
Just out of curiosity, do TSBA dues increase this year, or are they the same?
That's it. 6,768.
That was a slight increase.
Slight increase, not a lot, but slight.
Anything else there?
I'm good.
You good? Move on to item 2, roof inspection report.
I'd like to introduce Coryell Roofing. They were instrumental in getting our roof back in shape when the hurricane hit. For those that don't know Dale Lynch, he's a friend of mine, former colleague. He's former director of schools. He was over at Toss, and he now works with Coryell. He called me the day of the hurricane and said, "What can we do to help?" And I said, "Well, we need your help." And they were up here that next day. So while they were up here, they also did inspections of all of our roofs. So we just wanted, that was just part of their process. Just want to be able to share that with you. We're not tied to them or anything. This was free. But they did do an inspection of all the roofs. So I'm just going to turn it over to Dale and Jake and Mark.
Thank you. Dale Lynch, and as your superintendent said, we go way back. The last time I was here, actually, I was executive director with the Superintendent Association, TOSS, which I served for almost 7 years, and I had the opportunity to recognize your director of schools as the regional superintendent of the year. So, Michelle, congratulations again for your leadership and what you mean, not just here in Johnson County, but across our state. And I will tell you that in my years of service as a superintendent and director of schools in Elizabethton, and for 16 years in Hamilton County, you've got a good one. So thank you for what you do, and I certainly appreciate you, and I know others do as well. When I was exiting TOSS, we were bringing in partners, and we were bringing in folks who could, help us in public education. Coryell Roofing, headquartered out of Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, wanted to move into Tennessee. As they were coming in, I was exiting, and they asked if I would help them get started in Tennessee. That's why I'm here. I would tell you that after being with them for now almost 2 years, we're not looking to put a roof on. We're looking to be your partner when it comes to physical needs that you have. When we were looking to start in Tennessee, they said, "Hey Dale, help us get started. Who should we hire?" Jake Green, who was a former student of ours in Morristown, he's going to share with you tonight what he has done for you all, and share with you hopefully provide you some information that you can use in strategic planning. The next person that we brought on, actually, Mark Treese. Mark is in my Sunday school class and is also a great friend. But he worked for over 30 years with the Comptroller's Office in the Division of Audit. So I said, what do we need to do to help school districts? And let's bring somebody from that side and help us in school finance. So we feel like that we're building an incredible team here. We also hired Trish Martin, who is our territory manager, and our office now is in Franklin, Tennessee. We moved our headquarters here in Franklin on the other side of Nashville. But when you all were devastated, Michelle, because of our relationship, I said, hey, we're here. And that's what we've been able to do to try to help you. So thank you for letting us be here. Again, as your superintendent said, no obligation whatsoever, but I will tell you we're working all across the state of Tennessee now. And with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Jake, and he can share with you what you have in front of you. So thank you for allowing us to be here.
Yeah, piggyback off that, thank you for your time. And I did get to take a look at a majority of your facilities. I know the two that were just recently completed, I didn't walk. I think that was Laurel and Doe. But everything else we did. If you guys have got a packet there in front of you, there is a spreadsheet there. That is broken down by section and grade. It's get an estimated year of replacement and then a cost if it's starting to get closer into the C's or B's or D's. So as you can see here, what we've done is taken a look. Each one of these has an additional section. So like section 5 on your high school, that's going to be your CTE building. Section 8 is all of the domes together. Section 6 is the new addition over on the middle school side. You've got section 1, I think, is this main corridor in the middle. Section 2 is where we're at currently. And section 3 is on the middle school side. So that's just kind of the breakdown that we do on each one of these roofs, and just kind of break them into more of a bite-sized pieces where there's a termination point. So we did go look at all of them. So each one of these is going to get a section, how many square feet it is, when it was installed, if we can find that information, and then its grade and its makeup. As you can see here, what we did whenever I got the call from Dale and Superintendent Simcox here, we came in the next day, did some core samples, made sure that we were all good to go, and started on the ETS system. That is our emergency temporary system that we came in and put on to get you guys all squared away and dried while we worked through, worked with your insurance company and your claims adjuster. But here we can see some of the pictures of your domes and your overviews, your gas lines. Let me see. So, there we go. So you did have some things like this, like open seams right around, some penetrations, which is very normal for something this age. These are just maintenance issues, some drains that I know Dustin fixed while we were up there looking at it that day, things of that nature. So here you get into the nuts and the bolts. We estimate that this portion of the roof needs to be replaced in 2029. Once we do that, we add in what we think with inflation that cost is going to be in 2029 to replace that with the system that we've recommended. The system that we have recommended is what we did over the kitchen area after the storm happened, which is a 60 mil single ply Duralast PVC membrane with a 1/2 inch gypboard underneath for hail rigidity, and also some polyiso insulation in there to bring up the coat and make sure everything's good, staying dry and not hot and things of that nature.
If you have questions along the way, feel free to
Stop me, I'm long-winded.
No.
But going into that, I won't go through this whole report because I think it's almost 100 pages long, but you get that for each one of your schools.
Now, which section in the high school were section 5 and section 8? Because they're the ones that are showing.
Correct.
CTE and,
I think section 5 is your CTE, and we'll get right there to it.
Yeah, the domes.
8, I put all the domes together and made just one that's out of those. And I think also section 5, I did this little annex building that's in the middle of the parking lot. I think, what do you call that?
Science building.
Science building. Yes, and it's a modified roof, so it's actually a different roofing material than the other portion of the roof. It's more of an asphaltic base roof, and I could not tell you how old that was. It based on some of the grades, you could say 25 years, 20-ish years. But it was starting to show some signs, a lot of blisters, things like that, where air's getting trapped up underneath. And what it does is it causes that asphaltic roof to bellow a little bit, and then it'll crack once it starts to get a little bit UV heat and sunlight on it, and then that'll cause a crack and a leak or something like that. I'll get to section 8 as well. Here's a picture of some of those domes. I did not get to walk on them all much. They're a little steep. But I did get up on the one. This is actually overlooking while we were installing the roof there over the kitchen. But as you can see, this is the same type of roofing membrane that you guys have over the entire school, which is an EPDM product. EPDM is in the single ply family. It's made out of rubber. So it's a different chemical makeup than the PVC that we had put on there. It's also a different color, it's black. But these domes have been coated, which means they have taken some sort of spray or paint, like an elastomeric coating, to coat that to try and prolong its life.
And from this, it looks like you're recommending the domes be replaced in 2027.
Correct. And that pricing is for the layover option, which would be going back with the 60 mil PVC membrane. And then I think section 5, which is that modified section there, 2028. These are here to help as far as long-term planning and things like that. It's not written in stone by any sort of imagination at all, I know you could work with Dustin and Leon and the guys, if they have a maintenance program or something like that to prolong the life of some of these roofs. We don't see any reason why some of these roofs can't be, if we said it's 27, it could make it to 28 or 29. This is just our recommendation, seeing as to the amount of maintenance that you're already starting to see.
Got a question?
So is this removal and replace, or?
No, so what you see here on the far right of your sheet, you have the next to last column is a layover estimate, and what you have next to that is a tear-off estimate. So depending on the makeup of the system, the roof system, you have your decking, your insulation, and your roof membrane. If there is only one layer of roofing, you can do what's called a layover, which means you can lay over exactly what is there, still keep the investment that the school system made 20 years ago, and go over top of that with either new insulation and this coverboard and membrane, as opposed to tearing it all the way completely off and starting over from scratch. As you can see from the numbers difference, a tear off is more expensive and more costly.
We always have recommended the school systems to do the layover first, if you have that
As long
opportunity.
as it's, yeah, as long as you don't have.
It's more of an
As long as you don't have any
economically
damage.
friendly, it still gives you the same system warranties. So with our PVC membrane, you can have, if it's mechanically fastened or adhered, you can still do a 20-year warranty with a no dollar limit, and it's edge to edge, deck to sky. So all of the edge metal comes from the same manufacturer, and it's under the 20-year warranty. All the fasteners come in, same warranty, and all the way to the drain boots and everything like that. And so what you'll see here on the very bottom is year and your estimated totals. Anything that has a total here between 27 and 2031 is added up. Your second option is your layover totals, and your third is your tear-off totals. That's just gonna be what on this sheet shows you should be hitting right around that time. This is, like I said, this is more for budgetary things. Do y'all have any questions for me? I know I went through a bunch.
So, just for layover, we would be looking at around, over a 4-year span, 4.6 million for layover, roughly.
I have not added that math, so I would assume the numbers, yes. And that would be all of, let's see, 4-year span, 29, 29, 30, yes. So that is all of the high school, one section on Mountain City Elementary, and the other section on Rome Creek Elementary as well.
But that's also a purposeful document to help you look long-term, so that you don't have to look at, but being good stewards, a little bit at a time is a whole lot easier in a lot of rural areas than a big chunk at once. We hope this is a good document for you to plan down the road.
Yeah, especially if you're looking at the high school sections. Some of those, if you were to do a year at a time, you wouldn't be biting off $1 million, so $1.5 million just in one fell swoop. You would be able to do a $400,000 project this year and maybe a $500,000 project the next year, or 300 or 200 or whatever that ended up being. And that's why we kind of try to break it down as much as you can. Where there's a clear termination point, I know we had this, it wasn't an issue, but whenever we came and did the kitchen area, that one section over here, it just keeps on going. There was no clear termination point, so we had to create termination points to stop it where the insurance claims stopped. So we created our own termination points. But these are broken down to where those termination points are. So like where the gym is on the far end, the middle school gym in the back, it's lifted up, it's a little higher, so it has its own termination point, right? Some of those other ones do as well. That one, it's the middle corridor here where you come in, that's all one big piece. again, thank you guys for allowing us to come speak with you. We hope that you all can take this and use this and use it and hopefully be fruitful and, and have good dry days in here. So if there's anything else, please let us know how we can help in any way.
And I'm assuming these are projects that we've done over the summer.
They can be, yeah, layovers actually can be done while children are in school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you're not actually tearing down the decking or anything like that, so they can be done all year round. And these are mechanically fastened. Typically, there's two different types of roofing systems. You can do adhered, technically three, adhered, mechanically fastened, and hybrids. Hybrids are part of the deck is adhered and part of it is mechanically fastened. But what we did, the kitchen area is a mechanically fastened. We actually had to do a full rip there. That's what the insurance company required us to do, to fix some of the decking and things that was there. But no, you can do this. Most of the time, we try to stick to summer work, but it's not necessary. And if you ever have a question after this, because I know how my mind works, I never think of anything after that time. My number is in the back. Feel free to call me anytime.
Thanks for letting us be here.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all very much.
All right, budget discussion. Item number 3.
Well, Tina and I have been working very hard based on what the discussions we had at board retreat, and where y'all sort of gave us guidance on how to proceed with the budget. And we, at the beginning of the week, we were about, well, last week we were 1.5 million out, but we still didn't have a lot of things coming in. So now we're about 300.
Okay, so,
Tina did some magic this afternoon, so when we met this morning, it was about 328.
so we are currently, if you look at these two sheets, the first one with all the numbers, it starts with 7,1100. That is our expenditure side. And where you can see the numbers have been marked out and changed, that's where we've gone through line by line and taken out things that we left. We took a look at, say, textbook replacements, and we really couldn't cut anything there because it's a science adoption year. We were able to cut some lease payments because in the past we had been with Mr. Liggett's company, and we've mostly transitioned to Canon. So we increased some lease lines. Decreased. We decreased like some equipment lines that hadn't really been used this year. There are excess funds in, let's say, like the diesel and some of the gases that we purchase to heat the schools. I'm a little nervous about that because of the hurricane. I think everything was less than it normally would be. So there's possibly some areas there that I could sit down and talk with Dustin and Darwin about, and there could probably be some more cuts there. But if you look at the bottom, we have 48,610,357 currently in expenditures. If you look at the other page, the next page, the smaller revenue page, we have 48,122,968. So taking a look at the difference, it's 487,389. I know we really wanted to do a $2 increase for the non-certified, but if we looked at a $1 increase, it only puts us 287,000 out, 287,197. And we do not want to cut any positions, so we are going through, we're looking. If we went with the $1 increase and we were 287,197 out, here's what our budget would include. It would have a $1 increase for non-certified. That's a $1,402 increase for assistants. Our starting pay for a E0, which is just high school with 0 experience, our starting pay would be at $1,281. The non-certified would receive the $500 bonus that you've given. The non-certified would also have any increase in insurance costs picked up by the board. For certified, they also would receive the pickup of increase for the insurance. They would get the $2,000 bonus for the certified, and I know that money is coming from the state for that, but it doesn't cover all of our positions. So Dr. Simcox and I were very cautious when we figured in the amount that we were gonna be receiving for reimbursement. So that may come in at a higher number than we're projecting, just because we want to be cautious, because we're not sure, is it gonna be actual classroom teachers that receive reimbursement for? So we didn't project that we were gonna get any reimbursement from like guidance
No,
counselors.
and they're supposed to be giving us some guidance on that, they said by the end of April, as far as who they consider to be in the bonus area. You know, the board did say whoever wasn't, that you all would pick up the cost for that. So we don't have an indication right now of who they include.
This would still include the $2,000 increase for the certified, and it would include moving the certified over on to the yearly schedule rather than the LOE schedule.
Remember, I shared that at board retreat, to move them over from the alternative to the regular, and what that would mean as far as.
Still based on 20 years.
Still based on 20 years, not backing it up.
Not backing it up.
The budget currently where we are includes 3 new positions, which is public relations, a social worker, and security. We feel like there's real possibility of a grant for the social worker, which is probably an additional $75,000 that we could take off that total of $287,197, if you were to go with the dollar increase.
And we did have personnel meetings this week, and there is a drop in enrollment as far as kindergarten enrollment. So there is a possible projection, if not 1, 2 teaching positions that can be cut, not a loss of personnel, but a loss of position due to the fact that dropped enrollment.
If we remove the PR position and the security position, how much does that cut off of it?
We based the PR at 48, and the benefits on that would be,
Fixed cost was what?
we'd be probably looking at 75 for the PR and maybe 50 for the security.
I think you had on the security position with salary and fixed would be about 49. And then with the PR, salary and fixed would be about 61. And then again, the mental health would be salary and fixed around 78, but that would be funded by the grant.
When we had the meeting this week, Dr. Simcox also asked for the opinions of the federal program supervisors, and which is Ms. Wills and Ms. South, and then also, Ms. McCulloch. She also spoke with them. One of the issues that Ms. McCulloch has, do you want to tell them a little bit about your funding, how your funding works?
Her funding's a little bit different.
My only funding is my meal reimbursements for students. So it's, it's kind of hard. I can, project that I'm going to receive this certain amount. But like this year here, my largest reimbursement month was March. There was 20 days that we were in school feeding kids. And next to that, I think was August, was 19 days. Like the whole month of October, we weren't in school, so I just served a few meals through single summer option, and my revenue was very low. So it just depends. I mean,
So you don't use system funds at all?
no. I'm a sole department.
We talk about, we hear on the news that the administration is cutting a lot of federal funds, but yours is through USDA, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
He's not said anything about USDA, so we don't have to worry about it.
Well, it's.
So far, we don't have to worry about it.
Right.
Gentlemen?
So how do we find the rest of it?
Well, I guess first we need to ask if you all are okay with the dollar increase for the non-certified. I know that we're really looking at the certified this year because we're doing the 2,000, we're trying to get them to the 50. We're moving them over to the yearly, or to the experience, rather than the LOE. If we do all that this year, maybe we could focus more than $1, focus more on the non-certified next year.
And see, that's where I have a problem as far as, you know, it's kind of like I said in February, the state will always push for raises for the certified. No one ever,
They are, because we've got to get to a certain point.
right, but no one ever really pushes for the support staff. I mean, this was, you know, they just kind of get left to the wayside, and I do not think we do them justice with what we pay them, just being completely honest with you. So what's your ballgame, any ideas?
Well, there's two things that we don't know yet, and it's what the local tax base is gonna be. We don't know exactly what property tax is gonna be, and at this point, we don't have enough data to conservatively project a sales tax increase based on the half-cent mandate that went into effect in January. I think there's gonna be some dollars there. I don't think it's enough to close this gap completely.
Then how much that we get,
What's that?
the sales tax increase?
Well, by law, schools get 50% of their tax collected. And then property tax is going to be based on what the aggregate is.
So, for example, March of last year, sales tax was $104,550. This year, it was $144,741. So there was almost a $40,000 increase in sales tax from this month, of the same month last prior year.
Does that hold true for February?
Let's look. February was a little less. It was 137 prior year, 146 this year. But almost every month had, not as large as this month, but there was some kind of increase in almost every month except for November. So, just tell us where you want us to go from here, what you want us to do.
I think it's pretty obvious we don't have the funds to add to beyond this. That's my take.
I'm not ready to take those positions off the table just yet, because we need to have the full picture here.
When will we have all that information?
Well, let's see, budget meetings start with the county commission, with the budget committee first of next month. And we're waiting for Matthew to finish up to where his cutoff point happens, to where he can sort of give us some preliminary numbers.
Angie, what would that mean though for your consolidated app? Because her consolidated app is, application is due. That's sort of why we need to sort of know which.
They haven't seen the deadline till May 14th, but they have asked districts if they can get it in by May 1st, but they would appreciate that, just because they have to approve all these across the state. But absolutely,
But she can always go in and,
I could go ahead and budget whatever you tell me to budget, and then I can adjust.
but it does impact.
But I definitely know that if we do the $2, there will have to be some positions that in our fund, and so that makes it more.
And how many, you said 2 to 3?
What does the dollar impact do to it?
If we could possibly get one with one less assistant,
So it goes from
and we do have an open position.
All I was gonna say is that people actually losing jobs are just not filling
It
an
would
open
not
slot.
be, it would not be filling one.
So we would manage to hold the line with everyone we've got.
But some retirees, people retire, and just not feeling.
It's 75 versus 50,000 as a minimum.
The general purpose one's easy, because we can, at any point, use either option. But at some point, we're gonna have to give federal programs some guidance about what to put in there.
Well, and also central cafeteria. I mean, $2 hurts her budget just as much.
You know, and I know we've had the discussion with central cafeteria at some point, general purpose might have to pick up. And I'm afraid we're to that break point that GP may have to pick up some of those positions.
Yeah, to help her out.
To help her out. I mean, because she has to be able to operate within the means of what revenue she's got, but also make the program effective and meet all the federal standards, both the state and federal standards with it. So if it means, for instance, that we have to shift the 4 managers to general purpose, then that's what we do to free that money up to help her in that aspect. But then that becomes additional expenditure on this side. All right, I'm gonna ask this question, it may not be popular, but what would it, I know it's gonna have it's a dual-edged effect here, but what would happen if we scaled the teacher from 20 to 15?
I actually worked on that.
Okay.
Thought you might ask that question. The total cost for certified, that is to just move them over. That doesn't include the 2,000 part, because Tina worked on that part, just to move them over. At 20 years, the total cost is 11,600,000. And that has the 13 outliers. And if you remember when I talked about the outliers, it's when you move those people from the alternative to the year's experience, that their salary was a little bit less. When you do at 15 years, you're looking at 11,300,000. So not too much of a difference, but you have 41 outliers.
So it pushes the outliers.
It pushes the outliers, which at the end would end up costing, I think, more than the 20 years. Because we did talk to Kingsport City for a long time the other day, and how they did their outliers, and it's taken them 4 or 5 years to get those. And that's why, when you look at their salary schedule, Chad, as you talked about, they had the half-year increments. That's why they had the half-year increments, was for those outliers. And it was not popular with their teachers.
Yes, she said it was not
To
popular.
migrate them back to
Back to where they're
back to a scale to where they're
Yes,
supposed to be.
yes, that it was not popular at all. So we don't want to do
Don't
that.
want to go that direction.
No.
So we need to stay at 20.
I
Based on
do,
that,
based on this.
I think we need to stay at 20.
I think in
based
the
on
long
that.
run, we would be better off.
Because that just means what? 12, 13, 14, 15 people we
Yeah.
have to deal with as opposed to almost 4.
Yeah.
And then the 2 positions you were talking about, TR, that don't quite get us 100,000, does it?
110 with fixed cost.
110.
So that would get back to about 377, give or take. Leaving the $2.
Leaving the $2.
Leaving the $2 on the table.
And we do know, like I said, due to enrollment, decreased enrollment, we would have a cut at 1, if not 2 schools. You know, if you wanted Laurel to go back to a split classroom, there's a possibility for an additional cut there. We talked with Brenda with that, and then would be a cut at Rome Creek due to student enrollment. They didn't have as many kindergartners. But again, it wouldn't hurt positions, it would just be cut. But that would be an option for 2 if the board chose to.
So like at Rome Creek, we'd be consolidating.
It would just be 2 kindergarten classrooms instead of 3, because they don't have for a full classroom. But then you also have to remember, if their enrollment does go up, we do keep a ratio reducer in our budget for those, just in case that happens. So we always have one in there as a ratio reducer, that if she did get an increased enrollment, say within 15 days of school starting, we would still have that position in there. We always keep that. Laurel, it would be, you would have to go back to a 3rd, 4th grade split, because currently they have a teacher in 3rd grade, a teacher.
I personally would love to see us stay at $2 for that support staff. If we could do $1.
But I know it makes that.
Well, something else we haven't discussed would be $1.50. And we could do $1.50, and that would take the difference. It would put us about to $3.87. It would be half of the 200 to take the dollar away. I mean,
I would be fine with
Go to $1.50.
we could do $1.50. That would get us to 3 something. We would have the cut.
that. But I would really, really like to see us get them that next 50 cents next year.
Next year, I mean, with certified, you know, we'll have to at least do 2, because that'll get us to the 50.
But we won't have that.
But we won't
big
have
bump
that.
over.
Yeah,
Moving over.
the crossover
The
is our
crossover is
problem.
what has got us this year.
Right, so this year's the earthquake. Next
It
year
is,
will
Yes.
just
it
be
is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, if we knock that from 2 to $1.50.
$1.50, we're down to around 387.
All right,
If we
and that
have,
still leaves the new positions and everything in.
that leaves the new positions.
So
If we
380
have,
387.
we feel like we would have 2 cuts.
Well, one, if you wanted us to do that at Laurel, again, that's up to the board if you wanted us to.
So
do
we
that
for sure
here.
have 1
We
cut.
for sure have one based on decreased enrollment. That's just.
So we could say
We
75,000.
say about 75,000.
Yeah, so there's 75.
And
We feel confident there's gonna be some kind of increase in sales tax, property tax.
well, there's definitely an increase in sales tax. It's just
That much.
trying to figure out conservatively what to project until we've got a year's worth of data to look at.
And then,
No, I was just gonna say, as far as Laurel in the 3rd grade, I think that is a tremendous load to put on a 3rd grade, 4th grade teacher with everything 3rd grade retention.
Mhm.
I
So
mean,
keep-
that is a.
Keep that like it
I
is.
think-
So that would just be
Yeah.
one cut.
So, I
around
mean,
the-
We can avoid it, that's what
Yeah,
we need to do.
well, that was last case scenario, but you all wanted all the information,
Because
so we
that's
wanted to
just-
provide everything.
With everything
Right.
those 3rd grade teachers have to do, I think expecting them to also teach 4th grade.
I'm sure Brenda's breathing a sigh of relief, but
No.
we did want to share everything with you. so.
and if we could get more guidance on the reimbursement, like I said, we have been super conservative with that. We didn't count special ed teachers. I feel certain we're gonna get reimbursed for the special ed teachers. So I feel like we've been very conservative with that.
But we would rather be conservative than,
Let's, I mean,
Let's don't do the nuclear effect just yet.
yeah, see what, get together what she needs
Angie
and let her do what she can do.
and Kathy.
And Kathy.
And refigure at 150 instead of $1.
And
Okay.
then,
Keep the new positions in there for now.
Yep.
yes,
Okay.
Can I ask this question?
yeah,
I always put back like $50,000 in reservation funds because, like last year, they gave us our allocation and then they cut that. If I did not have to do that, we probably would not have to get the position. But that would mean if they do that, the board would then in the spring have to pick that up. I mean, how would you, do you want me to put reservation of funds or would you?
I would do what you always do.
Okay.
Just continue to do what you've done in the past. Right.
Yeah. Just, because you just never, they took a big chunk.
You never-
They never did it
Every
last
bit of
year.
it last year, so.
That way you know what you've got.
And we didn't have to come ask. That was research.
So, good, guys?
And you all are still good with picking up the insurance increase? Okay.
I mean, it defeats the purpose of giving an increase
A raise.
for us to turn around and
Right
take
back
it
with
back
an
with,
increase.
with an increase in health insurance.
Well, I know that all of them.
You know, if that's the case,
appreciate
then we
that.
decrease what we give to be able to
Yeah.
cover that, because, again, it defeats the purpose.
We can do that.
Anything else, Jim?
I mean, really, until we have some local revenue numbers that we can sort of bank on. This is probably the best holding pattern we've got.
Okay, thank you all.
Yes, thank you. That gives us guidance and we will.
Keep on working.
Anything else we need to look at now? If not, we got about
45 minutes.
45 minutes before the meeting, if you wanna look around the school.
Dr. Long, do you want to?
Stephen, you got anything you want? Got about
Well, we're just
45
happy to
minutes.
have you here tonight. Happy to have the opportunity to host this month's meeting.
Okay. Okay, we'll re-adjourn or reconvene at 7 o'clock.